The White Unicorn, Bedtime Short Stories for Kids, a collection of fantasy and classic stories with 101 positive affirmations to help children fall asleep and relax. Aesop's Fables and Fairy Tales, written by Martha Shannon, narrated by Tippy Robinson and Dona Jackson. Part 1. Bedtime Stories for Kids. The Hungry Alligator and the Cat. Have you ever seen an alligator with a cat on its back? It's not every day you will see such a sight, especially when it swims by in the middle of the night. This story is one that you'll just have to hear as you snuggle in deep to your covers for sleep. So without further ado, lie back on your bed, close your eyes, and rest your head. Take a deep breath in and let it out smooth, and find out what happens with the alligator and the cat under the moon. There are plenty of creatures that live down in the swamp, and many of them are just as curious as strange as some you might find in the sea. Take the alligator, for instance. Close your eyes and imagine what an alligator looks like. Long tail, long snout, flat head, long body, short little legs. Alligators love to coast along the waters of the swamp, the rivers, and the lakes, only their eyes and the ridges of their backs sticking out of the water. One night, just such an alligator who was doing just such a thing was under the moon, drowsily coasting along in the swamp. The bullfrogs were croaking, the cicadas were humming, and the fireflies were asleep for the night. The alligator calmly and quietly swept through the swamp, the moonlight shining down. It was almost hard to tell she was even swimming there, for she looked like a floating log, and nothing more than that. It was something she was good at, the alligator in the swamp, just coasting along, hidden from sight, her body underwater, until chomp, chomp, chomp. She would leap out of the water and snatch her dinner, rolling and twisting and turning her body in the water. All the animals in the swamp knew to keep a watchful eye, for the alligator was easy to miss as she hid beneath the water, not unlike the cat, who quietly stalks its prey and has impeccable instincts. Just such a cat was hunting by a tree near the swamp, and was almost about to grab her tasty mouse dinner when out of the swamp leapt the alligator, who was hungrier than a hippopotamus. "Meow!" meowed the cat. She was startled and leaped up into the tree. Her tasty mouse dinner was scrambling away. The alligator was unhappy to have lost her catch, the cat who was quick and able to get away, but she wanted to get at her anyway. The alligator stayed on the bank of the swamp and waited up in the tree for the cat to come down eventually. The cat saw what the alligator had in mind and quickly reminded herself that she was a cat and that there was nothing to be afraid of down there. Didn't she have claws and sharp teeth too? Wasn't she just as fast and good at catching things? What she didn't want was to be anybody's dinner. So she worked her way down the tree and did something no other creature in the swamp had ever done before. As you may have already learned, cats always land on their feet, even from 2 stories high. The cat leapt from the tree and right onto the alligator's back. And since alligators have very short arms and legs, well, there was nothing the alligator could do except jump back in the water. And as you may have already learned, cats don't like getting wet. So when the alligator jumped back in the swamp and began to twirl around and around like a spinning log, the cat had to run in place on top of the spinning alligator to stay dry. Can you even imagine it? Close your eyes and picture it now. A peaceful swamp under the pale moonlight and a silly alligator rolling her body over and over again while a cat skitters on top of her to stay out of the water, like running on a barrel or a log. The cat realized that this could go on forever, and so she knew she had to put a stop to it. As you may have already learned, cats are masters in the art of Zen, and this cat wasn't about to let a twirling alligator disrupt her usual state of cat calm. The cat knew that to stop the alligator from her twirling frenzy, she would have to do something a little out of character. She decided to stick her claws into the alligator's back and let herself get soaking wet with swamp water. It was the only way to make a change in the situation and move forward. The alligator felt those sharp, pointy claws dig in, and she stopped spinning immediately, returning to her resting alligator pose. "Ow!" she commented in a long, drawn-out sigh that was as lazy as a southern summer, for alligators have very thick skin, and it was hardly a scratch. But it was enough to stop her in her twirling tracks. "Serves you right for scaring me out of my dinner into a tree and onto your back," the swamp-soaked cat revealed to the alligator. "You might find that being a little more zen will get you a better catch," the cat continued to teach. "I beg your pardon?" The alligator was taken aback. Never in all of her days floating in the swamp had she ever met anyone she couldn't catch or best with speed. "I am nothing but stealth, cat. May I remind you how scared you were by my presence? You couldn't even tell I was coming." "That may be true," replied the cat. "It seems to me you have met your match. I am just as stealthy and just as quick. You'll never dine on my kind. We're two alike." The cat was perched on the back of the alligator, who had calmly begun to float down through the swampy waters. The cat was quite content to take a relaxing ride. She was almost inclined to curl up and take a cat nap. "What you say is true, and so I suspect we should call each other friend." The 2 creatures calmly floated through the water together, and soon they were laughing, telling jokes, and helping each other look for tasty snacks under the pale moonlight. The cat sat on the alligator's back, and they drifted more in depth into the swamp, showing each other what they could do to catch a meal. Neither of them was very good at the surprise attack, and they laughed and joked about how silly they could be. The cat was ready to take a long nap, and as she curled up into a ball on the alligator's back, she said, "Oh me, oh my, I am ready for a nice long nap. We have been up all night laughing and talking about life. Do you mind, friend? Can I take a nap on your back until the night ends?" The alligator smiled and yawned and kept floating along. "Sleep, friend. Rest your eyes and take comfort on my back. I promise not to leap out for a snack. I think I shall do the same and float along with my eyes closed until we both wake again, or until there is something good to eat." They both laughed and prepared to sleep, swimming along the swamp at night, feeling the moonlight. And what a way to become fast friends, the cat and the alligator together at last. Have you ever seen an alligator with a cat on its back? It's not every day you will see such a sight, especially when it swims by in the middle of the night. This was a story of unlikely friendship and of learning from friends as the cat and the alligator sleep in the swamp. May you dream of them on their adventures. The swamp is quiet, the moon is out, the night falls on friends sleeping soundly. The cat curled up on alligator's back. May you find the same peacefulness and moment of zen, dreaming about the story of these two unlikely friends. Sweet dreams. Finishing the Witch's Brew. Agatha was a witch who lived in the enchanted woods. In the enchanted woods, there was a great big community of witches and wizards. All the witches would get together and cast their magic together, and all the wizards would do the same. A group of witches that work together is called a coven, and a group of wizards that work together is called a kiln. Every year on Halloween, the All Hallows' Eve celebration was held for all the residents of the wood to enjoy. Every year the witches and the wizards would both bring a delicious brew to the All Hallows' Eve celebration for everyone to drink. The Wizard King, who was in charge of the enchanted woods, would taste some of both brews at the celebration. The group with the most delicious, most tingly, almost magical, and most bubbly brew would be crowned the winners. The winning group would be sent on a tropical vacation for the winter. A little-known fact about witches and wizards is that spending time in the sun and playing at the beach is their favorite type of vacation. They love having fun in the sun, playing volleyball, sunbathing, swimming, and sitting by the pool. The group that lost would stay in the enchanted woods and look after things through the winter. This year, Agatha was in charge of bringing 4 essential ingredients for the witch's brew, and she couldn't let her coven down. Just days before the celebration, she had gone into town and bought the bat, newt, spider, and sugar for the brew. Now, these ingredients might not sound like something you would want to drink, but with the right amount of magic and sugar, they are delicious. "You're sure you can handle this, Aggie?" Hilda, Agatha's best friend, had come over to drop off the cauldron of brew. "I know that sometimes you can get a little, forgetful." "Yes, I can do it. I already have everything. I need to make this the most delicious brew this celebration has ever seen. The spider I bought has been steeped in sour apple cordial for 200 years and is ready to bring a flavor to this party that the Wizard King won't soon forget." Hilda and Agatha squealed with excitement as Hilda made her way out the door to leave the brew with Agatha. Agatha dashed straight into the kitchen to add her ingredients to the brew. When she got into the kitchen, she found that there was a terrible problem. Her spider had gotten up and walked away. She was sure that it had been petrified and that it couldn't have gotten up and walked away like that. She looked at the clock, and it was only 12 minutes until the shop closed. She grabbed her hat, broom, and cloak and dashed out the door to buy another one. She threw her cloak around her shoulders, plopped her hat on her head, and zoomed off to the shop on her broom. When she arrived at the shop, there was a sign hanging on the door that read, "On vacation for All Hallows Eve. See you there." Agatha's smile fell off her face as she read the sign. She had tried so hard to get there before closing time, only to realize that the shop had been closed all day long. She panicked for a moment as she thought of the places where she could get another spider at this late hour. She thought about it some more and realized that Hilda must have a spider she could use. She hopped back onto her broom and zoomed back across the woods. She arrived at Hilda's home and knocked on her door playfully. She waited for a long moment and knocked once more, a little less playfully this time. Still, there was no answer. She knocked one final time before giving up, getting back onto her broom and flying back to her cottage. How could this be? How could it be that there was nowhere to find the spider she needed to make the perfect witch's brew? She wondered for a moment if she could find a replacement ingredient that would taste just as delicious as the spider. As she thought, she remembered that there were rules to the competition for making the brew. She was only allowed to put the approved ingredients into the brew. She had told the council precisely what she would be putting into the brew, and they were all expecting it. There was no way with the other ingredients that Agatha had at home she would be able to make the brew as delicious as she had wanted to make it. She flew home, feeling sad and defeated. As she opened the door, she thought of the ways she might have to make it up to her coven if it was her fault their brew lost the contest. They would never forgive her if they missed out on a tropical vacation because she lost one lousy spider. She arrived home and opened the front door. She hung up her hat and cloak, set down her broom, and went back into the kitchen to start putting the other ingredients into the brew. As she added each one, the brew sizzled, bubbled, and changed color. When she added the sugar, the brew turned bright pink. When she added the newt, it turned a lovely shade of blue. When she added the bat, the brew bubbled, thickened, and turned a sickening shade of brown. Nervously, Agatha pulled her spoon out of the brew and took a little taste. To her surprise, it tasted okay. She looked down and thought that the look of the brew and the thickness was enough to keep the Wizard King from ever touching it. How can we win this if the Wizard King won't even sip my brew? Agatha looked around the kitchen sadly when she noticed something poking out from underneath her spice rack. She walked over to the counter and pulled it out. The spider! She had found the spider! Agatha thought she must have swept it under the spice rack by mistake when she was cleaning up the dishes after she made breakfast that morning. She ran back over to the cauldron and dropped the spider into it, stirring very carefully. As she stirred, the brew began to thin out and brighten up. She stirred a little more, and as she did, the color turned a beautiful, gleaming green color. She spooned a little bit of the brew into a cup and tasted. As she did, her eyes shot open. She leapt into the air, and her socks flew off all the way across the room. The brew was so delicious, it knocked her socks off. This would surely be the perfect brew at any All Hallows' Eve celebration had ever seen. Agatha ran to the head witch in her coven so she could taste it. Immediately, a meeting of the coven was called, and everyone was asked to taste the brew that Agatha had saved. Everyone cheered for Agatha and praised her for her amazing ideas about how to make the brew delicious. At the All Hallows' Eve celebration, the Wizard King said that there was no question the witches had won the contest. All the witches would get their tropical vacation and fun in the sun.
The Gingerbread Man. There once lived a short old lady and a short old man. They stayed on their own, just the two of them in their small little cottage down the hill. The couple did not have any kids to call their own, and they had no small girls or any little boys running all over the house and making unnecessary noises at all. All they had was each other. The house more than often remained quiet the entire day. You could hear yourself breathe, it was that horrible. There was no adventure to lift up one's spirit. The silence and the boredom, which resulted in the loneliness in the house, prompted the short old lady to make herself a little boy out of gingerbread. She wanted to care and love for somebody else apart from the short old man. This little gingerbread boy would brighten up their remaining last days on land. She had already pictured herself telling him bedside stories, playing around together, and making him hot cocoa during the cold season, and so many other things. She had laid out everything perfectly. His jacket was made of chocolate and plastered in cinnamon seeds on it to act as buttons. Fine currants were used to make his little eyes. Rose-colored sugar popped out his mouth, and he'd got a gray small hat made out of cotton candy. The short, aged lady, carefully with a clean rolling stick, shaped the dough to look like a little boy, took her time dressing him up so that he can be one fine boy, took a piece of dough and made him some nice gingerbread shoes and helped him put on. She placed him in a baking pan and unto the oven and closed its door to allow the abracadabra manifest itself inside there. And she thought, now I will get to have a lovely little boy to call my own. I will no more be the laughingstock of the villagers. Am going to have a little gingerbread boy. She allowed it ample time to be done, and when the timer clocked out, the aged lady went up to the cooker to remove him from the baking tray. The small gingerbread boy jumped out of the baking pan and onto the floor, and ran away outside the entrance of the house and down the road. The short-aged wife, together with her short old man, stomped out of the house and ran after him, but they couldn't keep up with little Gingerbread's speed. He was too fast for them. Instead of stopping, the little boy kept running as he shouted, "Run, just run, as quickly as possible. There is no way you're going to get a hold of me. I'm the Gingerbread Man." And for sure, they were not able to catch him. The old couple were already aged and had no strength in them to really run as they did in their youthful days. They watched as the little Gingerbread sprang off and disappeared out of their sight. The little boy made out of gingerbread ran on and on for a long time, until he bumped into a cow by the sidewalk. "Hey, you over there," said the cow to the little gingerbread boy. "I want you to stop so that I can have a taste of you. Those little cinnamon buttons are really attracting me to you, and I would love to have a taste of even on, little boy." The little boy laughed hysterically and responded, "I am just from running away from a short old lady and her short old man. What makes you think I can't run away from you? I can as well run away from you. You should be certain that I will definitely run away from you." He turned and looked behind, then yelled, "Run, speed up, as quickly as your feet can handle," the little gingerbread told the cow as he chased him. "Run as quickly as possible. Let's see if you can catch up with me." "I am a gingerbread man. You can't catch me." Unfortunately, the cow, too, was unable to get a hold of the little boy. The boy, shaped like a cookie, went on running further on until he approached a green grassland over a massive piece of land, where he could see a horse feeding on the hay, placed at one corner. The horse said, "Kindly, can you stop, little gingerbread boy? You look pretty delicious. Would really love to have a nice bite out of you, especially the fine currants are the ones that have caught my attention the most. It would be a pleasure if you gave it to me." This made the small-shaped cookie boy burst with laughter. "Ho, ho, 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 ho!" he shouted to the horse. "I have managed to run away from a short old woman, a short old man, and just a while ago I ran away from a cow. And I can run away from you as well. Yes, I can." Once again, he looked over his shoulder and cried out while being chased by the horse, "Run, just run, hurry up, as swiftly as possible. I am Gingerbread Man, you can't catch me." The horse wasn't able to catch him either. Slowly by slowly, the small boy, shaped like a cookie, came to a shed filled with harvesters. Immediately, the harvesters got a whiff of the boy of gingerbread. All of them could smell the aroma of the homely baked bread, and their concentration shifted to him, and they tried to lure him. He was told, "Don't run so soon. A little boy made of gingerbread, you look pretty good for eating." However, the small cookie shaped like a person of gingerbread moved at high speed like never before, and as he sprinted, he yelled, "I have run away from an old lady, a little old man, a cow, a horse, and I can run away from you too. I can." As soon as he realized he had run quite a good distance from the harvesters, he confidently looked behind as he yelled, Run, just run, run, as quickly as possible. I'm the gingerbread man, and you can't catch me." And he could not be captured by the threshers too. Thereafter, the little gingerbread boy increased his pace in running like he never did before. He made a run for his dear life for some time without stopping, to a pitch fully packed with trimmers. The minute they had a look of his beauty, the mowers hurriedly came behind the cookie-shaped boy and shouted, "Slow down! Slow down! We'd like to eat you a bit, little gingerbread boy." And back to his crazies, the little gingerbread looked at them and laughed really hard, like he has never before, and sprang out of there like the wind. "Ho, ho, 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 ho," he said, with a lot of confidence. "Listen here, my dear friends. I have managed to make a good one's escape from a short-aged lady, short-aged gentleman, a cow, a horse, a pitch completely occupied with trimmers. Do you want to know the amazing part? I can also run away from you all. Yes, I can." He took off very fast and ran away from the mowers as fast as words could fly. And when he was certain the distance between them was big enough and safe, he looked back and then shouted, "Run, run, quick as lightning. Come on, guys, pick up the pace or you won't be able to catch up with me," shouted the little gingerbread boy. "I am the gingerbread man, and you can't catch me." And he couldn't be caught by the mowers. At that particular moment, the small, like-a-shaped cookie made of ginger was very boastful for being able to dodge all who wanted to have a piece of him. He was so confident in himself and thought that truly there was no one out there who could catch him. He thought, "I am a little gingerbread. I can go for miles without getting tired, and am as light as a feather. Speed is no issue for me. I am uncatchable." Before long, he spotted a fox on the other side of the field. He was making his way across the field towards him. The fox gives him a long stare before he started to run towards the little boy. But the little boy made of gingerbread yelled at him. "Do you think you can catch me, Mr. Fox?" he said, laughing sarcastically. "You can't catch me." The fox sprinted at a very high pace towards his prey. On the other hand, the little gingerbread boy was not hesitant, as he too went at high speed, running and giggling. "I got away from a short-aged lady. I've been running away from a short old man, a cow, the horse, the threshers. The pitch was filled with trimmers, and I can as well run away from you with little or no effort. I can. Look, just hurry, hurry, run quickly. I am the gingerbread man. You can't catch me." "Why?" the fox said. "I would not be able to catch you even if I did want to. Just have a look at the distance between us. It is purely impossible for me to catch you. I have no intentions of disturbing your peace, and neither do I want to eat you like the folks you have encountered on your way. I have a good heart. I don't take people for granted." Thereupon, the little gingerbread boy approached a river. He knew very well that he couldn't swim across the river, and yet he had to be miles away from all the animals and the old little couple. He stood there still as a statue, and his mind wandered away. "How will he go about it?" he thought to himself. "If he decides to swim, chances of drowning are at high stake, and still he couldn't remain standing there forever. He had to come up with some, and quick for that matter. Luckily, the fox was on his radar from the moment he saw him. Who could have missed little Gingerbread's mouth all covered up with rose-colored sugar? Only a fool would. "Hop over to my tail, and I will be able to help you cross over to the other side," alleged the fox. At first, the little gingerbread boy was a little hesitant, as he wasn't sure how honest Mr. Fox was. Nevertheless, he had no other options up his sleeve, so the boy jumped over the tail of the fox, and the fox swam into the river. As soon as they were a little further away from the banks of the river, Mr. Fox turned his head, and over his shoulder he said, "Little gingerbread boy, your weight is too much on my tail. Would you mind hopping onto my back? You wouldn't want to get wet, would you really?" Without a second thought, the little boy got on his back. A bit further out into the river, the fox said, "I'm worried that the water's going to cover the whole of you while sitting at my back. Jump over onto my shoulder, little gingerbread boy." Halfway down the river, the outwit uttered, "Oh dear, my little gingerbread boy, I can hardly feel my shoulders. I think it is going to sink. You're too heavy, little boy. Jump onto my nose so that I can prevent the river from swallowing us." Yet again, the boy did as he was told and hopped onto his nose. As soon as the fox got to the coast, he stuck out his tongue up to his nose and took a sudden, small bite. The fox had deceived the little gingerbread boy. He got played on his own game. Surprisingly, even having the thought that the fox could be cunning, the little boy still agreed to go along with the fox's proposal. "Goodness gracious," the small cookie-shaped boy said sadly, "I'm a quarter gone." After a short period of time, he cried out, "Why, am I half gone?" He literally wondered. Then, within a spur of time, he whispered, "Oh, for gracious sake, I am 3/4 gone." Suddenly, there was silence. Nothing more came out of the small little boy made out of ginger. A mermaid, a ring, a wish for love. A gentleman in the springtime of his life had deep feelings for a mademoiselle once in Scotland, and always thought about her endlessly. He eventually allowed himself to fall in love with her, in exchange asked for her heart. She didn't feel the same as she could. She smiled sweetly and ran away from him. The young man felt sorry and battered. The young man was full of doubt. His face across town seemed he couldn't reveal much. She had not gone through everybody thinking. Even with his mates at the shore, he couldn't fish any more because he was too full of shame. He collected his boats, went into his ship, and sailed to a deserted island with a heavy heart. He constructed a hut for himself and sailed very early to the sea every day. He will throw his nets there and hopefully catch a day there. the nearest coastal harbor where no one recognized his name, he took his catch. He sold his fish to the local market and bought food and other necessities with the money he earned, and went back to the island. Henceforth, he followed the same routine. One sunny day, as he went about fishing, something shiny in the fishnet caught his eye. He quickly took it with both of his hands, as much as it tossed from side to side with force, trying to get loose. He tied a knot using the fishing net that nothing could get away. The woman yelled out, "Let me go!" She was a sea creature, to his delight. She appeared from the tail like every woman, but a long fishtail flipped beneath, shining in shiny yellow-green scales. "A sweetheart," he said. "Well," said the mermaid, "I think you want a gold bag of coins. I can take you to the boat that sits around here with that kind of treasure you are looking for. I know." "To be honest, I am not intrigued with no treasure or coins," said he. "You know me well, and you have to give me the wish." She turned her head confidently. "It is impossible to get that which you wish for, but if it is a case of coins and gold that you need, I will give it to you. I'm a king's daughter of the seashore, and my mermaid servants can have that trunk shipped to your island." He said, "Once you know enough about my island and me, you know what I really want. You know why," he said. "Why her?" "Her blue eyes, she's blonde, the way she's walking, and it's what I want in all parts of the world. I want her, and I don't want anything else." "I can't give her your desire for love, though," she said. "If the young man tightened her hold on the netting, but you have to know that it's going to take some time. Release me, and I will make you have a magic ring. After a year and a day, if you come to her to offer the ring, she's not going to refuse it." He then decided to release the mermaid. He picked up the ring and put it on his bedside table in a jar. He preferred to craft the wood inside a cloakroom to keep an eye on his daily life. A day later, he saw what looked like a bunch of seaweed. As he sailed back to his island, it was even more impressive when the algae passed, and he saw it wasn't a pile of seagulls, but a woman with brown hair and dark skin, lying around her in a heap. "Here on my island, what are you doing?" he fumbled. "And my dad has a new bride not much older than I. She's horrible and cruel. I worry that she'll do something awful to me." "You can't just stay here. You have to go back and make things right with her." "There's no reason for you to involve yourself with my life," she said. "Of that, I am staying here." "You can't go there, and you can't do something good about it. There's no reason why you're here." She responded, "Young man, stay on one corner. I will be on the other side of the room. However, when I cook for myself, I can prepare enough for two," she said more gently. "Come in," he said. "Suit your own." The girl was true to her word. "But I eat alone." The young person would find a hot meal on his plate, whether he returned from fishing or from the market. He had no clue what she did, and neither did he have any ideas where she went and where she worked. He had a particularly good day one Friday afternoon. It was a successful one. He had caught a lot of fish that day. They were fresh and big, and for that, it attracted a lot of customers, and the returns for the day were high. He got back to his house rather early that specific day than his usual time. When he went inside the house, he found the girl. She became terrified and began to walk away. The young man told her, "You don't have to go too hard there right now. Take a plate and sit across from me. We might also eat together." But she also came back on the next day, and they said a few more words as they ate together. The next day, they got to know everything about each other, a few words more. He fully understood why the young lady had to run away from their home, and he got pretty angry when she talked of her father and his ignorance to get to know what she was going through, and the toxic condition in which he exposed her to. He heard the story of his loss of love with sympathy and how, after 365 days, he was hoping to win the junior ring to the core. In reality, she placed a chart on the mantel to record the days that had passed and the days that were left. A smart idea, he figured, as it became difficult to separate and count the scratches in the wood. Not long afterward, the young man returned one day from the fishing grounds and saw the flowers moving from the field to the shelter. He said to himself, "How sweet and thoughtful." She began helping him dock the ship and spread the net around that time. Despite her blonde hair and her tiny body as that of a small child, she was amazingly tough and supportive. One day, the girl said, "You have to take a few window glass back to the market to hold the weather off." And she forced it to go, and she put the glass in the window holes the next day while he had left. In reality, that night the hut stayed warmer, and the day, through that new window, a ray of sunlight shone. She once again told him, "These walls are too dreary. Bring me back a white paint." She responded, washing the walls, then painted white. When he thought of ranting and complaining about how he was spending a lot of money which he didn't have in the first place, he held back his comment, and he saw there was a real change in the house. It had a touch of a woman. Indeed, it was homely. One day, at the further end of the island, he found a stack of meadow forced into the center of a group of dense trees. He realized that she had to be where her night had to stay. He decided to give up fishing some days later. He started collecting wood and hammering it into the shelter. A little bit exposed that he had never thought about it before. She said, "What are you until now?" "It's not fair that a young woman sleeps outside on a grass mound," he said. "I'll do it on my side." She sniffed. "It will be your place. I'm all right where I am." But he found that she was singing herself that night as she walked through the door, a song which was similar to his mother's music. So the days passed fast. It was the 365th day before he was informed that he had caught the mermaid on his net a year ago. To now that out of the ordinary had happened until now. When the lad arrived from work on that evening, he saw the girl admiring her left hand, holding it high and glancing from all directions in front of the fire with the mysterious ring. He barked, "What are you doing?" She said easily she dropped the ring back inside the pot and shut it tight with its top. "It's nothing." She went to her place. "Make sure that everything is well with tomorrow's circle." Once she came back, she kept all her things in a cloth bag. "I'm going to leave now. I'll get back to my parents." "What? Don't you worry about how they're going to deal with you?" "I'll manage. I'm older now." "It's only been 1 year." "It's only been enough a year." The winds are not going to be right." "But we'll never get your ship repaired." "You are going to claim your true love tomorrow," she said, and she left. The young man sat in his seat for the remainder of the day, gazing at nothing in particular, and finally went to sleep. The first thing he saw the next morning was the map before him on the bed. He moved to the cape, holding the siren's bell, and went to pursue the love of his life. Only the village in which he set sail was not raised. It was the girl's land that remained on the island with him. Just imagine the level of shock that hit her when she saw him go into the garden of her uncle. "Oh, here I am," he said. "So, you have met the love of your living?" "Yeah, I did. Now I have it." "Where would she have you?" the girl asked, looking at the ring that he kept in front of her. "I didn't expect to see you here." He said, "Look at her eyes. You say to me." "She might, well," the girl said. "Is that a bit of time to be sure if you and your girl offer it?" And each other chuckled. They've taken their time. They've done that. The young gentleman was able to secure a place that was not far from her, and every day he went fishing. They had dinner in the evening and spoke and spoke. They felt more confident every day than the previous day. So the two were wedded. With all their family and friends, it was a lovely marriage. That the girl and the boy felt they were crossed over, but they were not angry anymore if they were still annoyed. And so the gentleman in his salad days, together with his blonde woman, had the rest of their lives to enjoy as one. Beauty and the Beast. A wealthy man once lived with his 3 children. There were 3 occasions. The 2 elderly girls were fond of screaming at anyone who didn't dress as well as they did or expected. When they didn't rest at home, they spent most of their time shopping and had the habit of spending as much as they could for beautiful clothing and hats. Beauty was the youngest daughter, and unlike her elder sisters, she loved spending most of her time reading. The 2 elder sisters chuckled. "You always dip your nose in those useless books," she said. "Nobody will ever want to marry you. Look at your hair. Look at your body. You look nothing more than a maid. You might even be mistaken for a slave." Beauty, however, never understood why they were so wicked to her, but she said nothing, and she never said anything amidst all that pointless ridicule and insults. One day, Dad came home with a disturbing message. His entire life saving has been invested in a boat that had gone to the coast for business. As he had heard, the boat had already left, and worse still, all the money he had invested was gone with it. It was all lost on it. The rich dad was just as bad as it could be all at once. They could no longer afford to live in the big mansion that they were currently living in. It got even worse because they had to sell all the assets that their father had invested in so that they could afford to survive. It was necessary to sell the elegant buildings, its beautiful furniture, paintings, silver plates and spoons, fancy clothes, and all other finer things they owned. Beauty's father was low in his moods because of his significant loss. At the end of it all, the only possession that their father was lucky to declare still, as he was a tiny house that was located far inside the forest. The situation that made all of this worse for Beauty's father was that he had to take his children there, as it was to be their new home. It was hard work to stay in that hut, secluded deep inside the woods. A fire had to be started every day. Food had to be prepared. The place was cleaned up. The garden had to be tidied up, and things had to be repaired. After all that the family was going through at this time, you would think that Beauty's elder sisters would be of any help, but unfortunately they seemed lazier and more useless than ever. "She looks like a mess," said the sisters as they continuously poked her nose. And so Beauty did all the hard work. She would represent us as well. The girls were late sleeping, taking naps, and feeding. He said, "Look, she's such a mess, turning her nose up." Out of nowhere, Beauty's father came running to their new home, shouting, good news now," he cried out. "My boat has come back from the sea." "My girls," the glad dad said, "I'll go to the village. Please get for me the best dress out of the best shop in the village," the older sister said. "My second-born daughter, please tell me the best gift that you would like me to bring to you from the village," their father asked. "I just want one beautiful dress, just like the one you will bring for my sister," the middle sister said. "Beauty, and you?" he said. Innocently, Beauty replied, "Father, all I want is a rose." "What an idiotic and silly thing to say," retorted the eldest sister. "What an insane thing," said the second-born sister. Both sisters fell laughing at Beauty. "My daughters," the daddy said, "if that's what Beauty wants, I'm going to bring it for her." "Daddy, everything that I want," she said. "There's a rose." She was on her way home when he said, "Ah, I've forgotten everything but Beauty's rose." All at once, the sky turned dark. "Lear, the storm is coming," and just before him a huge, horrible beast was in it. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't. How could you not know? I'm gone." And he took a rose to Beauty, and a big stump came from behind, and a roared voice. "You're going to take my rose," Beast screamed. "You will regret ever making that move. I will end your life." He forcefully pushed the father down on the ground and made him kneel. Please, the father pleaded. You're not going to kill me. I just chose a rose for one of my sisters. Beast said, What a good thing. I'll let you go free if one of them comes to stay at your house. She must always live there. If not one of them comes to your place in 3 months, then you have to go away and prosecute. Beauty might say something was wrong when the dad got home. Daddy, what is it? She said. Nothing, he said. Ah, nothing. But it was not accurate that she knew. The father finally repeated to his children all of which he had been told by what the hideous creature had said to them. Everything happened after I asked you to bring a rose back for me, Beauty said. In his house. I'll go there. No, I can't let that, or you'll die there, the daddy said. I'm 60. I'm old. I haven't got much longer to live. You're young. You have your whole life in front of you. You don't have to do that for me. Beauty wouldn't change her mind, though, so the father stayed in the castle in which the scary creature resided for 2 days. In his place, I'm going to go inside the cage. Yes, I am, she said. And that means he's free to go. And this is what you said. The beast said, the days were very long at the house of the beast. There were no people around, even to make small talk with, and no reading materials available. The beast would come for supper every night. You will die in the place of your father. This is your home now, the ugly creature said, looking at the beautiful girl. She asked Beauty several times the same question, but Beauty ever used just to nod her head and answer exactly as before. One day, in the hours of darkness, the creature said to her, Belle, if you don't marry me, what can I do to make you happy? If you have to guess, she replied, it would be to see my dad. I'm missing him that much. Beauty said, I don't want to get married to you, she said to him. I understand, please. Neither do I wish to have you as my bride, roared the beast. The following evening, the young lady received 2 enchanted gifts, a mirror and a piece of jewelry, a ring from the creature in the castle. He said, Take the magic mirror with you when you're ready to go see your father. Ask the mirror, and it will take you straight to him. Flip the ring on your finger 3 times when you are ready to return to the castle. Then ask the mirror to send you back to the castle. However, don't stay for long, at least not more than a week. I'm going to die of sadness. Young lady appreciated his kind gesture and also promised to keep her part of the deal. She will be gone for just a week. She looked in the magic mirror immediately when she had locked herself in her room, then said, Oh, mirror, mirror, kindly take me to my father. And in a snap of a finger, she was seated right beside her father's bed. He looked so ill, and it looked like he'd die. And when her dad looked up and saw his daughter right next to him, he was overwhelmed with happiness. His sickness came into existence the minute the beauty was held captive, and the father blamed himself for that. All that burden and strain made him very sick. Beauty sat there beside her father for hours unending. She went ahead and told the father at the beast's palace she had found favor with the creature, and it was actually not such a horrible place to be. The bookshelves were well stocked with dozens of different types of books. She played and listened to music and wore so many lovely clothes. She said, "When you get to know him, the beast is not that terrible. He is really charming and enjoyable to have a decent conversation with." The beautiful girl looked around and didn't see her sisters. "Where are my sisters, dear father?" she inquired. "They are all married," her dad stated. "I do hope that the men they are married to are decent with principles," she said. The dad said, "They were wealthy men, but I can tell you with certainty that they are not happy in their marriage. For instance, your big sister was married to a good-looking guy who was selfish and thought of nothing but himself. As for your second-born sister, she was married to a brilliant man. Nevertheless, he used his long whip to hit people around him, including his wife." Just as her siblings came through the door and saw how beautiful their younger sister was dressed, and the way she talked endlessly of how the beast treats her well, they were filled with jealousy and anger. She should be leaving for the castle in a week's time, Beauty had told them, and the two wicked sisters plotted a plan. The sisters petted Beauty and told Beauty of such beautiful things she had never heard before coming from them. When she informed them that she was planning to leave soon, they protested. "It's too early for you to leave," said the eldest sister. "Kindly do not go so soon. Stay with us just a little bit longer, and then we will head back home together." The sisters could not afford to have Beauty heading for home just yet, because there was still a lot of things that they wanted to do with her. Beauty did not mind staying a little longer. She was happy that her elder sisters were saying good things about her and wanted her around them. For her, it was like a dream come true, and Beauty lived, Beauty remained. She dreamed of the beast one night. The beast laid ill and died in her imagination. She then requested the mirror to her an image of the beast. When Beauty woke up, and in the mirror he was lying looking so ill he could die in a rose garden. It was like that. She flipped 3 times the magic ring at once. "Back to the beast, take me," she said. When he got back, he was beside the ailing creature whose health had deteriorated over the time she was away. The only thing he could do and sprinkle the rose flowers. The beast laid sick and died in her imagination. "You've returned," in a thick accent, the beast said. "Sorry I'm late, I'm sorry," Beauty said. "You may not be coming to me, and I cannot bear. And now I'm afraid it's too late." "No, no," Beauty screamed. "Do not abandon me. Do not leave me." She understood that was only then in her soul. "I love you, and I love you." She's been crying. "Keep returning, please. I'll be your girlfriend. Come back. I'm going to." His cheeks rolled tears away. The beast opened its eyes just then. "Sickness," he said. "You have done it." The creature, in a blink, was transformed into a beautiful prince. Beauty hadn't been able to think why. "Oh, loveliness," he said, and his story was told by the beast. Many years ago, there was a wicked witch who cursed a spell to him when he was a kid. He had to live forever as a beast until a maiden loved him as a beast. She was the one who broke the spell now. Beauty once stood before the mirror and saw her parents once more. Her father had been very sick, she thought. He rushed up and told the beast what she'd seen. "I never promised to leave you, but I'm going to kill me out of sorrow if you don't let me go." "You can come to your parents," he said, "but you have to guarantee that on the 8th day you'll be back. You should put your ring at the table when you are ready to return." She woke up at her dad's house the next day. The dad was very excited when he saw his youngest girl safe and well at home. She was also accompanied by her daughters. We were both envious and annoyed that Beauty was all dressed in a beautiful dress and looked more stunning than ever. They came up with a nutshell to have Beauty return to the castle so that the beast got upset and killed her later than she expected. On the 8th day, they began to weep and begged their youngest sister to stay a little longer with them. The good heart of Beauty did not even think a project could exist, and she genuinely believed they ignored her. She promised to live for 8 days. Beauty had a vision on the 10th day. The beast was almost dead in her dream in the forest. She woke up and placed on the table her ring. She woke up in the castle the next day, but nobody answered that. She called for the beast. She was searching everywhere for her beast, but couldn't find it. She eventually recalled her dream and went into the garden. She noticed the dog there. Beauty thought he was dead, but he fainted. "For me, he died. He died." She was wondering, and on his chest dropped a drop of tear. Beast became a lovely prince as soon as Beauty's tears fell on his breast. Beauty had been shocked. "I have been transformed by a fairy to a hideous beast because, when a storm came, I didn't leave her shelter in the castle," Beast explained. "Only the spell could be bridged by true love. You're going to marry me?" Beauty was happy to agree, and they remained in the castle for many long years.